All right, here we go. As you can see, the car is up on the lift, or up on the lift, up on the race ramp cradles. It's kind of like a lift, I guess, four-post, or not a four-post lift, but a drive-on lift, but not nearly, as convenient. But what this allows me to do is get up underneath the car while it's still while the weight is still on the suspension. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a measurement on my pinion angle, since I haven't really paid much attention to that. It's actually something very important to do, because if your pinion angle, meaning on the pumpkin, if it's like too high or too low, and the drive shaft is coming out of the transmission, and if that U-joint has got too much of an angle on it, it's called a working angle, then you can have some serious vibrations that can be going on, and even slight vibrations that are just inconvenient for you, but what they'll do is they'll wear out your U-joints as well. Because especially like on a car that's been lowered, or in some instances like those trucks, they like to lift their cars. But in my situation, the car's been lowered. You want to make sure your pinion angle is still within spec, because as the pumpkin gets lower, the angle changes on that. The angle changes on the drive shaft. So what we are going to do is just take a little measurement, and how to do that is go over here. We have our little magnetic base. This is just a regular angle finder, but this is actually not going to be accurate enough. So what I did was went out and got a digital one right here. And what this is going to do is get me down right to the decimal point of what angle we're riding at. So let's go ahead and just take our measurements first, and then show you what I'm going to do after that once we get that. In the second part of the video, I'm going to install an adjustable panhard bar or lateral bar, because the rear end moved over to the driver's side a few millimeters. So I'm going to address that as well, and hope you enjoy. Okay, here's the rear pumpkin here. I've got the drive shaft already disconnected, as you can see. Now this is a one-piece drive shaft here. It's because of I had to do the GM rear end. All we need to do is take the angle measurement that is on the face of this, because this is perpendicular, this face right here. It is 90 degrees to the pinion, what I'm trying to say. So you need to find a spot. Sometimes if it's like a circular, I think Toyota has like a it looks like a circle disc, and the drive shaft bolts to that. You could just take the measurement on that flat disc. But here you have these flat spots right here that I'll be able to get the angle finder on and get my angle that way. And now to do the front right here, you can see this is just a bunch of overspray. But you need to find a 90 degree angle that's right off of the spline on the tail shaft there. So, and you don't want to, if my transmission didn't have any fluid in it, that would be fine. I could just take this drive shaft out. But if I was to take it out now, it would leak a bunch of transmission fluid out. So I don't really want to do that. So what I need to do is, if you see right here, on the yoke here, there's this part of the U-joint. This is always going to be constant with that yoke, okay? And it connects to this part of the U-joint right here, which this part will move up and down, so it'll pivot, okay? But this will stay at this angle. So I'm going to take my angle measurement right off of that. And how to do that is I'm going to get a socket. Alright, so I'll get a socket, and then I'm going to just place it in to this little deal right here, just like that. Alright, and then I'll connect, or I'll put my angle finder up on there like that, and it'll measure that angle right there. Alright, so let me see if I can do this. Alright, so just turn it on. Okay, as you can see, the floor is not completely level, but it's pretty close. 0.2 degrees, which is pretty good at that one spot anyways. But we'll put the magnet, there's a magnet on the bottom like this, and I'll just hold it up to that spot. So there's 2.8. All right, now I'm going to let's rotate it. Take one off the other side just to make sure that we get, you know, accurate reading, even though this thing's bouncing all over the place kind of. All right, see, there's the other side, and it's about the same there, 2.8. All right, so we'll write that down on our piece of paper. That was out of the transmission. All right, and so another thing that's important is this. Another thing that's important is if it's up or down, okay, and it's going from the front of the car to the back of the car. So what that means is that angle like down or up? All right, and in our case it's going to be down, okay, because you're from the front of the car to the back. It's going to be down, and how you know that is the way it's tilted. So like my finger's not perfectly there, but all right. So like the way it's tilted is like tilting it this way even more. You can see it's facing downwards. All right. If it was tilted like this, then it would be up. It would be 2.9 degrees up. But since it's tilting down this way, it's 2.9 degrees down. Okay, so that's important when we're gonna later on when we put our measurement in there. And I know it's just said 2.6 there because my thumb was kind of in the way there. So 0.9. All right, so now let's go and take our measurement on the back. We don't need the socket for this one. All right, this time we're going to just set it up there like this. You can see it would probably be better for me to get like a flat piece and bridge that gap. But I'm just going to take it on each one, 87.2. Hold it flat. As you can see, it's about the same, 87.2. And might as well. 87.3. So we'll just go with 87.2 on that. Now you're probably wondering what the heck, why What do you mean 87.2? Well, because this angle is measured at that different angle. We've got some grease. Basically what I'll need to do is just take 87.2 and then subtract that from 90 degrees. Okay, and that will give you your angle. All right, so now I'm going to do is put this back in, and we're going to take the angle right off the drive shaft. So let's see. Okay, drive shaft installed. Now we're going to take our angle finder. We're just going to put it right up on the drive shaft. Let's see what it does. Alright, so we're looking at 1.4. Alright. Let's just move it along, just make sure we get something pretty close, you know. Alright, so we'll just go, I got from 1.5 to 1.3, so we'll just go 1.4 on the drive shaft. And these are all angled down. Alright, so the drive shaft is angled down. Also, I forgot to show you that this was also angled down as well. Because of the way when you hold your angle finder, and what that means down is this pinion is actually facing upwards, you know, because if you're supposed to take it from the back, from the front to the back, but since the pinion is facing forward, you know, that means it's angled upwards going forward, but from front to back it's going down. Okay, so whenever you take your what I'm going to show you in just a minute, you just got to make sure that you put it in right, that the angle is down, this angle is down, and that angle up there is down. If this was higher and it was actually facing, like, if it was like this, then you would say that the angle is upwards. Okay, because from front to back it's going up right there. All right, so just to want to clarify that. Okay, so now that we got our measurements, let me show you what we're going to do with them. Okay, now that we have our measurements, I'm going to show you what you can do with them. Just to make it a little bit easier, you can go to spicerparts.com. I'll leave a link to the description, and I'll leave a link to this website in the description, because I don't know if if you go to spicerparts.com, if it goes directly to this calculator. But what this is it's like an online calculator, and you just input the angles that you got when we were taking our measurements, and then it will give you the operating angles on both U-joints. So first thing I want to show you though is if we press the I, it kind of tells you some valuable information here. Talks about a little bit about the U-joints, but the important things that we need to mention is where I was talking to you about the up or down, the angles if they're rising or if they're descending from front to rear. Alright, and also they give a couple of tips on how to measure. Let's see. Yep, okay. But the most important things right here are these basic rules. Rule number 1, universal joint operating angles at each end of a drive shaft should always be at least 1/2 of a degree. You don't want them at 0, perfectly straight because something about it, you want the U-joints to be working a little bit. So you want at least half of a degree. I forgot the exact reason why. I think it has something to do with the lubrication of the joints. Also, rule number 2, universal joint operating angles on each end of the drive shaft should always be equal within 1 degree of each other. 1/2 degree for motor homes and shafts. And okay, we don't have to worry about that. But let's say universal joint operating angles should always be equal within 1 degree of each other. Okay, so we'll remember that. And for a vibration-free performance, universal joint operating angles should not be larger than 3 degrees. All right. So if they are, make sure they do not exceed the maximum recommended angles, and it shows you the different RPMs. Like at a lower RPM, you could have 11 degrees on an operating angle on that U-joint, and you wouldn't notice any vibrations because the vehicle will be moving pretty slow. You know, the drive shaft won't be spinning very fast, but as the RPMs get higher, the drive shaft spinning quicker, obviously. So that angle is going to need to be lower, you know, in order to not have any vibrations. Okay, so let's go ahead and input the numbers. So I have 1 drive shaft. Okay, so we got that at 1. Okay, now we'll go to driving member. Remember, it's sloping downwards, so we're going to click that over. And then the angle was, what was it, 2.8? All right, 2.8 degrees down. All right. Okay, the drive shaft angle, remember that was, we came up with 1.4, and that's down as well. Okay, and remember how this one was 87.2? Okay, so you take 90 degrees minus 87.2, and you get 2.8 as well. All right, and that's down. So then, it's already calculated our results, but we'll just press calculate results anyways. And you have operating angle 1 of 1.4 degrees and operating angle 2 of 1.4 degrees. So that's actually great. That's actually within spec. Remember, we wanted the if you go back to the basic rules up here, it falls within all those. So universal joint operating angle at each of the drive shaft should always be at least one half degree. Okay, so it's at least a half a degree, 1.4 degrees. Okay, they should always be equal within 1 degree of each other. Okay, so they're actually the exact same. So they're the same. So that's good. For a vibration-free performance, we want them under 3 degrees. Okay, so that's also good. That's under 1.4 and 1.4. So that's great. My setup is still within spec, and yeah, that's just something good to know. So if I needed to adjust it, you know, if one of these was way high and this was over 3 degrees, I would want to you know, adjust it appropriately. All right, now that we have the angle on the drive shaft and the pinion set, or at least measured out to where we know that it's in spec, I'm going to address the side-to-side movement when you're lowering the car. When you lower the car, you know, it offsets the rear end because of the lateral bar. So you have to have an adjustable lateral bar in order to recenter that, in order to recenter your rear end, and that's very important because there's also that working that has an effect on your working angle as well on your U-joint. on the drive shaft and the pinion. So, or on your excuse me, on your drive shaft. So I have this. I had a and the reason why this video took so long to come out was because I had bought this bar, this lateral bar from what was it called, Godspeed, and it was the wrong size. So they sent me a replacement one. This is a Megan Racing, which is, I'm sure it's pretty much the same thing, pretty similar, just different, maybe a different color and different name, but I mean it's probably this very very similar as far as you know, quality wise anyways. Here you see it's got little nice little sparkly blue. Pretty neat. There's that. Alright, let's look at this one. Alright, and these little, that's what this next portion of the video is going to be. Working with the centering up the rear end. So let's get to it. Alright, here we are to the back of the car, and you know, there's several different ways to do pretty much everything. We're in this particular instance, we're talking about getting the measurement of our rear end as in relation to the body of the car. And the way that I've done that, I've set this up, is this is the string method, we'll call it that. Basically, I just got some thread. I tied a weight to it, which is a socket in this instance, and then taped it to the fender, and we have it aligned towards in the middle of the axle there. See right there. All right, so what that's going to do is it'll tell us, we just take this measurement from the string to the tire. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. This is just the way I'm doing it. I'm sure there's other ways to do it. So what we got, and you can do this with just a regular ruler as well. I might have to do that too, but I'm going to try it like this with my depth gauge. It looks like I'm out of battery on my, right there. All right, and then we got about 11.5 millimeters. All right, so 11.5 millimeters. So let's go to the other side. Let's write this down too. I always want to put driver's side. 11.5 millimeters. Okay, let's go to the other side, and you can see how far left it's gone. You know, you can see just by looking at it too, but let's see. Right there, and you're looking at 15, 16, 17, about 18 millimeters there. So that's a good, that's 7 millimeters off. Might not sound like a lot, but when it comes to decimals and things like that, as far as the these little misalignments could really mess you up, you know. Okay, so we had the driver's side was 11.5 millimeters. The passenger side was 18 millimeters. So we got a difference of 6.5 millimeters. All right. So what we need to do is split that difference. So we'll take it and we'll divide it by 2. All right. and that leaves us with 3.25 millimeters. So basically what that's doing is, what that tells us is we need to shorten our bar 3.25 millimeters from the factory bar. And let's just double check that. Let's just say, okay, you got 11.5 plus 3.25. You got that's 70. That's a quarter. All right, and then this would be 4. So 14.75. All right, and then let's just say 18 millimeters minus 3.25. All right. We'll borrow 10. There's 5 right there. 9. There's 7. Okay. And take another one. That's 7 minus 3 is 4. And then you got, bring down your 1. These are the same. 14.75. All right. So that's going to be what that's going to be our measurement according to this. You know, if we shorten our bar length 3.25 millimeters. All right, so let's go ahead and remove the factory bar. We need to come up under here. Oh, and make sure, you got to remember, you got to do this while the weight is on the suspension. It's not going to do you any good if you take your measurements anyways. You know, take your measurements with the weight on the suspension. All right. This is the bar right here that we're talking about. It's the factory bar. It's just a solid bar. But the other one, the red one, is going to, we're going to be able to adjust it. All right. Whew. Some tight clearance. I hope it'll clear that rear end there. Gonna remove this bolt right here. And this one right over here. Shouldn't be too hard. All right, and this is just a 17 millimeter. Wrench on there, just nothing to it. All right. Okay, for this other side, this is mounted to the frame. There's a nut right here and a bolt, and the bolt head is on the other side, obviously. So, but what my point is we gotta hold one side, and then while we loosen the other side, and it's all 17 millimeter. There we go. Okay, now that we have the stock bar removed, what we're going to do is go ahead and put this bar, the Megan bar, together. And one thing to note, and I didn't know this, so it led me to many minutes of frustration, but these threads are actually reverse thread. Well, one side goes in regular, like clockwise, but the other end will go in reverse thread. So it's a little bit awkward. Let's see. Yeah, like this. And I had to actually I emailed the seller and was like, why isn't that, the threads look good, but I can't get it started for some reason. And then he informed me about the ordeal, so made me feel humbled me a little bit. Okay, I got this bar set up. It's about 31 and a third. And so basically I'm just going to get it in there and then fine tune it from there on each side. You can see this part right here, this area is really nasty and kind of, it's really dry. So I'm gonna just put some grease on it to help lubricate it. I don't think you can go wrong with a little grease. Go. Let's go to the other side. There you go. All right, we're in. Now let me go get my 17mm wrenches again. All right, there it is, installed. Now what we need to do is let's go up there and take some more measurements and see which way we need to go here. All right, so from the middle of the tire, we have, it's about 15mm right there. So I think that's going to be pretty close because I think our measurement was what, 14.75? Yeah, 14.75 would be the new. So let's see if it worked out. Yeah, of course not. Right here, on this side, we are looking at about 13mm. So, if we take the difference between 15 and 13, so you're looking at 2mm, and split that difference, so we're looking at 1mm off. Wow. So yeah, well, it'd be about 14, I guess. You know, I'm sure little variances here and there, but we're talking about 1mm. That's not gonna kill it. But that looks pretty good. I will go ahead and move it over 1 more millimeter. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. All right, so like how to adjust it is basically you're gonna loosen these. What was it? Wow. You're gonna loosen these ends right here. That one's reverse thread, so it's really messing me up. Okay. Give it some slack like that. And then we're going to take this center and spin it. So we need the rear end to move to the right by 1mm. So I don't even know how many spins that is. Let's see, or if I'm going the right way. I think if I spin it, loosen it this way, so it goes, yeah, so I think if I go down, pull down, it'll, okay, so for this one, spinning it down this way, or I guess counterclockwise, depending on how you're looking at it, turning it this way will bring the bar this way, or shorten it, I guess I could say, and therefore bringing the rear end to the right. So I let's go ahead and tighten these up. Tighten these up again. And let's check the measurements one more time. Okay, it's right here. Got it. It's about 14 millimeters. So hopefully we'll go over here and it'll be 14 millimeters. Looks good. 14 millimeters. All right, so our rear end is centered perfectly. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Here's that bar once again. Looking good under there. Thanks for your patience on this. But yeah, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up if you don't mind, and subscribe for more content. We got much more coming. All right, thank you.